All right, I think we can kick it off. So let's start. So today we're excited to introduce something brand new from Payhawk, a product that we believe will redefine how finance teams manage spend without disrupting the banking relationships they rely on. So today's session is about exploring how the role of finance is changing, how technology has evolved to support that, and how we can now finally bring control and continuity together. So let's dive in. So agenda, this is what we'll cover today. So we'll start by looking at some of the challenges that finance teams face currently, despite all the tools available. Then we'll take a look at how the expense management market has evolved over the years and why that evolution has left some important gaps. From there, we'll talk about the trade-offs companies face today between visibility, control, continuity, and what if there were a better way? So what we'll talk about is the Payhawk Link and Control. And we'll walk through at the end a live demo that Alex here will lead us through. By the way, please do feel free to post questions in the chat there. We'll do a Q&A at the end as well. All right, so quick intro here. So myself, Dan Osburn, Chief Payments Officer and GM of the US at Payhawk. Been in fintech for a long time, almost 20 years. Spent about half of that time at a company called Marqeta, who's a card issuer and processor based in California. Started a very young phase there, took them kind of all the way through IPO in 2021. I've also held senior roles at Monite and a number of other places that I won't go into. Also joining me today, Alex Sehlhorst, our solution consultant, who will take us through the demo later in the session and show us how the product works end to end.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good to meet you all. Like the slide said, I'm a former current accountant by trade, so I've felt a lot of the pains that Payhawk helps solve. So happy to show you guys.
All right, so to start, let's start by grounding ourselves in a reality of finance teams day to day. So if you're a CFO, the biggest frustration is often delayed visibility. You can't make fast decisions if you don't know where the money is going in real time. You want control, but without the friction for your team. For controllers, it's the month-end crunch. You're reviewing policies, exceptions, and reconciliations after the fact, trying to enforce rules retroactively instead of proactively. For accountants or AP teams, it's chasing receipts, correcting coding errors, waiting on transactions to clear before closing the books. These pains haven't gone away. They've just shifted forms as finance teams have gone digital. So that brings us to how we got here. Think back to how expense management used to work. So in the next slide, we'll look a little bit more at the history here, but it started with paper receipts and manual reconciliation, right? So a painful, error-prone process that nobody likes. Then came digitization, so scanning receipts, uploading PDFs, using spreadsheets. Eventually, expense management platforms arrived to automate reporting and approvals. But while that transition was huge, it didn't fully solve the problems. It just digitized the old process. Still, finance teams have had limited visibility into spend until after it happened, and limited ability to control that spend. Over the past decade, we've seen a clear evolution. 10 years ago, legacy accounting and expense tools ruled the space. Clunky interfaces, slow implementations, and little flexibility for each business's needs. Then 5 or so years ago, modern spend management entered the scene. So these offer nice UIs, UX, instant card issuing, integrated expense workflows, but they came with a really important catch, which is you have to switch your corporate cards, often leaving behind valuable banking relationships, rewards, credit lines, whatever else may tie you to your existing infrastructure and banking relationships. So we're what effectively happened is you're having to trade complexity for control, but at the cost of continuity. So this created a fork in the road, right? On the one side, you have legacy systems connected to your existing bank feeds and statements, but providing after the fact visibility. So no real control over spend as it happens. On the other side, you have modern spend management platforms with great control, but only if you migrate all your cards and accounts to their proprietary ecosystem. Finance leaders have been forced to choose between control and continuity, and that's not a choice that they should have to make. Every finance leader I talk to says the same thing. They need more control, but they can't afford to disrupt their banking setup. Credit lines, rewards, relationships, these things all matter. Legacy tools give you visibility after spend. Modern platforms require recarding to get proactive control. A few competitors have tried to bridge this gap by offering linked card transaction data, but those feeds only update when transactions clear. Usually that's a day or two after the fact. It's not real time. And so there's no ability to invoke control on those. So that's reacting to spend after it's too late to manage it. There are a few competitors offering transaction data on linked cards, but they generally give data, only later. So what if there was a better way? What if you could keep your existing cards from any bank and still get all the real-time control and visibility of a modern spend management platform? That's what Payhawk Link Control delivers. We call it financial orchestration, a layer that connects directly to your existing cards and provides instant transaction data. It's a win-win. Banks and processors enhance their platform value and defensibility, while finance teams gain modern spend management capabilities without the pain of recarding or losing their rewards. With Link Control, we're introducing a new solution category. So we see this as one that unites continuity with control. It's a modern financial orchestration platform that integrates seamlessly with your existing corporate card program. Effectively, it enables you to keep your bank relationships, rewards, credit lines, etc., and still equip your organization with the tools for full visibility and control of your spend management. So what you'll see is real-time transaction feeds. So when a transaction occurs, you get notified in real time, and Alex will show that in a moment. And additionally, so pending issuer participation, there is also the ability to put controls on these cards and to issue virtual cards on top of them through the Payhawk platform. All of this without having to change your existing cards or infrastructure. So you keep your issuer, you keep your processor, keep your relationships. So you effectively maintain the continuity. All right. So at a core level, what card linking enables is using the Payhawk spend management and finance orchestration platform with existing cards. So to enable this, we've integrated with various network tools. So we have this on Visa, MasterCard, and Amex. And so what that enables is we can get real-time transaction data from any card, from any bank. So it's very straightforward to enroll your card. Again, Alex will walk us through that in a moment, but that's the kind of core of this offering is the ability to bring your existing card, add it to the Payhawk platform, get transactions in real time, and manage your spend using the power of Payhawk finance orchestration. Here we have just very high level overview of the Payhawk platform, and Alex will show some of this in more depth. There are many features here. I won't go into most of them, but a few things of highlight. So we do offer both web and mobile app to enable real-time push notifications, prompting users to add receipts or invoices when card transactions occur. There is a lot offered on top of this, including advanced approval workflows, a large number of third-party integrations with ERP, accounting systems, and HR systems, an accounts payable module, budgets, global payments, various AI agents to help you optimize your workflow, and many other things. So Link Control effectively allows you to add this full suite of capability on top of your existing cards. So with all that said, I now hand it over to Alex to take us through a live demo of the product.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Excited to show everybody. I think, again, kind of the focus for today is really the link and control aspects of things. But while we've got the full hour, I think we're going to walk you through the Payhawk platform as a whole. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start walking through. So I'm starting out here kind of just on a group dashboard within Payhawk, just to give you guys an idea of how powerful the platform is. This kind of just gives you live insight into your spend across multiple entities. And so we have this dashboard to control spend by different entities, whether you're in the UK, Spain, or the US, as well as having some top-down controls on managing cards, managing your budgets, and user access as well. So really just kind of a powerful representation of everything that Payhawk can do as a platform. I think to start though, I'm just going to take you guys through kind of the core link card linking aspects of things, and talk about that that experience. So you can see I have Payhawk pulled up here. I'm going to the cards module and linked cards module. And I'm just going to hold up the card that I'm going to link here live on the call. So I'm picking Visa in this example, clicking continue. I'm going to stop sharing for the card details since this is a live credit card and don't want to show you guys that. Alrighty. So boom, you can see the Visa card is linked to Payhawk. So I just hit confirm and you can see it managed on the platform. And then from there, I'm just going to donate $1 to Wikipedia that I've got pulled up in this other tab and show you guys what it looks like on my iPhone. So kind of got the details filled out here. I'm going to click donate. I always like to say that the founder of Wikipedia is a fellow Auburn grad, so that's why I was picking Wikipedia. So you can see that the transaction went through. And I'm going to move over. You have a new expense for to submit the receipt for $1 paid to Wikimedia. You can click into the Payhawk app. And you can see the expenses pulling up where it's autofilling details from the card network automatically for that $1. And you can do a couple things here. One, you can click here and you can take a photo of the receipts, or you can go to your photo gallery or your files and pick one from there. So I've got this saved to my phone already. You click upload. And boom, we've got the receipt captured. I can categorize the expense as needed and hit submit and send it on the way to the finance team. So it really is that easy. It takes seconds to capture the receipt and hit submit. So really giving the finance team real-time interaction with their card spend. And on the employee end, you buy a coffee, you donate $1 to Wikipedia. It takes 10 seconds just to take your receipt and auto-categorize the transaction. Coming back to the desktop experience, I'm going to dive a bit further into that card setup side of the house there. So this is really like the home admin page in Payhawk. And this is, again, to kind of give you, a bit more lay of the land of what Payhawk can do. So all the different modules that we offer here. So we'll take you through today the life cycle of an expense and pushes to accounting systems, as well as the initial card setup and things like that. But you can see there's a lot more to Payhawk. There's a full procure to pay platform, supplier/vendor management, managed subscriptions, et cetera, et cetera. So on the card side of the house, so let's say you've linked these cards via Visa, MasterCard, or Amex. This is where you can manage those cards. You can assign them to users in Payhawk so that they get those real-time notifications. But what we're talking about today is, okay, you've got these Visa, MasterCard linked to Payhawk. What you can do with those cards is apply spend controls, right? And so what that means is picking a policy that you have set up or applying individual controls at the card level and being able to apply different transaction limits on those cards, right? And what that means is a variety of things. For this executive policy that I have here, you can set recurring spending limits on the cards and you can have them be monthly recurring spending limits, and you can allow users to request additional funds on their cards so they can spend if they go above that. Hopefully they don't. But then also these advanced controls that you see on the right here. So can they use the card online? Can they have single transaction limits, daily limits on how much they can spend on one day, and controls around merchant category and merchant controls as well. And I think the last feature here, auto blocking of cards, that's my personal favorite feature, where you can basically have cards turned off if people are late on submitting their receipts. So depending on how you guys want to set it up, you can say, hey, if you got 5 expenses that are a week late, like I have set here, their card will actually get turned off. And so I think everybody usually has someone in mind, usually sales, that is late on submitting their expenses, and so you can just have their card turned off. So as long as the bank issuer has this set up for your MasterCard, Visa, or Amex, we can apply these controls to your cards today. So that's the initial card setup, usually very quick and seamless, and just a matter of assigning the cards out and then really deciding what sort of policies and controls you want to place on the cards. What happens next is really up to you and up to your finance team. And that's where the life cycle of an expense on this expenses grid comes in. So as I kind of showed on my iPhone previously, as soon as a card transaction comes in, we're going to grab that transaction directly from the card networks, and they're going to post to the submission tab. And that's, again, where the user gets notified to upload the expense, attach the receipt, and help categorize whatever dimension you'd like for that expense, whether it's the GL code, department, or other fields you'd like to capture. After the submission point, what happens next is really customizable to the user. So I'm moving over to the workflows here and showing you how customizable these can be. So when you think about after card spend happens, you can set up controls and approvals to say, okay, once that person submits it, you may want to have their manager review the expense. You may want to have subsequent approvals based on different conditions, and to say, okay, this expense is within policy and it should be approved and then sent on to the accounting team for posting to the accounting system. And just to talk a bit about what that conditional logic looks like, you can add additional approvers tied to a team manager or individuals. You can also make it conditional to say, okay, maybe expenses under $50, you don't want to have a second layer of review or approval for that expense. You can add that condition, or you can do it off of a variety of dimensions. If someone needs to review spend tied to a specific supplier or vendor, you can do that, or any sort of dimension that you might have in your accounting system or set up in Payhawk separately. So really just really customizable approval workflows to make sure that when someone spends, it's going to the right person, it's approved, and it's going to be categorized correctly. So heading back to the expense grid here, so let's take the submitted expense. Let's say that it's been approved. The final step is really where the accounting team is going to spend most of their time. And this is really where our strong accounting integrations come in, where we can connect directly with a variety of accounting systems. I think in the US in particular, QuickBooks, NetSuite, Business Central are probably the most popular three, but we connect with a variety of them across the entire world. So this section here is really where you're triggering the actual push to the accounting system, and also where the accounting team is spending the most of their time to actually review expenses. So you can see the Slack expense here that got submitted. We're reading the receipt for the user, auto-categorizing the transaction, and leaving it with the accounting team for one final layer of review before you push to the accounting system. And just to kind of show you guys what that looks like, I have a QuickBooks environment set up to give you an idea of exactly what those pushes look like. So let's say at the end of the month, or you could do this every day because transactions are going to post in real time. I think we find a lot of our users end up reviewing these every Monday. They might review expenses from the last week, or they could do it for 15 minutes a day, and then rather at month end, you guys aren't chasing receipts anymore or having that time crunch of you need to close the month. You're not waiting for those transactions to come in on your credit card statement. You're getting them in real time, and you can push them. You could get that transaction from Wikipedia that I just submitted. You could have posted that in 30 seconds from the card being charged to pushing to the accounting system. So yeah, this final review tab here is really where the accounting team will spend most of their time. So again, you can see the same tabs here. So let's use maybe this Microsoft expense as an example. Again, you can see the invoice is attached. It's tagging even to the vendor that's set up in QuickBooks. The categorizations is set up so that you're linking it to your actual GL coding. And we're also pulling in different fields relevant for QuickBooks, right? So if you need to track expenses by customers and projects, I think that's a pretty popular module within QuickBooks. Or the other fields, like is it billable to a client? Do you want to track it by class or something like that? And also additional custom fields that you can set up in Payhawk that you maybe can't push to QuickBooks today. The other thing I like to point out before we actually hit push to QuickBooks is the ability to bulk review. And so again, when we go back to say maybe expenses that are over $50 or something like that, maybe those ones you want to review in more detail. But if you want to say expenses are less than $50, you can filter on this page and just auto submit those and post to your accounting system, right? In this example, I'd imagine, a $4,000 Microsoft expense, you probably want to be able to, review that in more detail to make sure it's going to the right GL code, or if you need to set up accruals to amortize the expense over time, since it looks like in this case, it's over a certain time period. But you hit review, and you can see it moved from exporting to exported. You hit view in QuickBooks Online, so it'll be a direct link to QuickBooks, and boom, it's that simple. You can see that we're going to auto attach the invoice or receipt to the transaction in your accounting system. That's true across the board. You don't need to be on QuickBooks to have that feature. You can do it in NetSuite. You can do it in Business Central. You can do it in Exact Online, et cetera, et cetera. And then all the different categories that we had for this transaction. So tagging it to the vendor, supplier, tagging it to the GL code, tagging it to the class, and things like that are automatically pushed over. And it's accruing it to the red expense account. And it's also accruing it to the customizable GL mapping that you have to say, hey, this credit card expense, I just used my Chase card. It should accrue to this Chase account on the accrual side of the house. So really the intent there is that we're going to capture transactions in real time. We're going to make it extremely easy to categorize the expenses from the cardholder perspective, the employee perspective, but then also give you the ability to do an easy sync to your accounting system and not have that time crunch at month end to push transactions over. I'm kind of hopping back towards the home dashboard here to talk a bit further about the different features that Payhawk has beyond the card and expenses and accounting system pushes. One thing that I always like to talk through is really the data set up there, just to show you guys, okay, in every environment, you're going to have customizable expense fields. Some of them are going to be built in, like every accounting team is going to want to have categories that you can customize further to tell your team, this is the accounting code that it needs to go to on the expense side. You can make it a user-friendly name and then pick an actual underlying GL code that it should go to, as well as tracking categories that we're going to again pull in from your accounting system directly. There's also things that Payhawk can do on the review side of the house here. And so if you think about, employees accidentally submitting duplicate receipts or really old receipts, we have configurable review assistants to flag transactions that might be out of policy for you, or say they submit a receipt that we cannot find the actual value of the expense tied to that receipt. We're able to flag those transactions for you automatically and just maybe say to the accounting team, we should probably take a second look at those expenses and make sure they're categorized right, or make sure the receipt tied to it is actually correct. And so that's where the warning filters here back on the expense grid comes in and says, hey, show me those transactions that might have, things that you might want to look into further. The other things that I like to talk about is really the budgets module, and that's kind of again where the real-time sync of the transactions comes into Payhawk. And what you can do with that module is you can upload your budget for the year, for the quarter, for the month, and you can record it based off of any dimensions that you'd like. So you can do, by department. I think that's probably the most popular one. Of course, GL category or code. And really any way you want to budget for the year, you can automatically have that budget uploaded to Payhawk. And then we're going to track the spend for you in real time against your budget. So I think in particular, working with a lot of FP&A teams over the years, I think they always have a budget, and it's always extremely frustrating for the FP&A team or the CFO to say, okay, we budgeted this amount for this project or something like that for the month of November, and you don't even know where you are at with that marketing event or something like that for the month of November until December 5th or something, or December 10th when you close that out. But with Payhawk, the budgeting module is going to really give you real-time visibility into that. And so, for that marketing budget, you can say, marketing, let's say you have a Super Bowl ad, that would be really cool, right? You can track the spend that you have in real time by whatever dimensions you'd like, and be able to click into, the different budgeting and look at the expenses that are contributing to that budget back in the expenses grid. So just a really powerful way to make sure that team spend is in line with the budget for the year, and on the control side of the house, actually making sure that you can stop out of policy spend that's out of budget, before it happens. Kind of the final big module that I like to walk through when showing people Payhawk is the subscription side of the house. As an accountant, I think, a constant month-end battle is, really making sure that you're accruing for expenses correctly. It seemed like it was a constant battle to have vendors submitting invoices on time. Like let's say, an October 30th invoice, it's November 6th now. You may not get the invoice until now, and maybe you already closed your books. The subscription module really helps you track spend by vendor over time. So you can see expenses that might be creeping up that you didn't budget for. But then two, let's say this WeWork example, you can see, hey, we actually haven't received a WeWork invoice for the last couple of months. Is that because we stopped using that particular WeWork office? or am I just missing the accrual and we haven't gotten the invoice yet? So really kind of helping you track spend go up or go down, or maybe you're just purely missing spend on that transaction to start. So that's a generally pretty high level overview of Payhawk. There's a lot more that we could show you guys today, but I think for the most part, being able to show you the real time card transactions flowing into Payhawk and the real time categorization and submitting is the highlight for today, as well as from the finance team perspective, being able to take those existing credit cards that you have linked to Payhawk and applying controls to those cards. So yeah, thanks for the time, everybody. I think that's most of what I wanted to cover today.
Thank you, Alex. Well done. All right. So to wrap it up, so let's bring it back to where we started with the finance team. So first, for the CFO, link control means cash visibility and confidence in faster data-driven decisions. For the controller, it means proactive enforcement and faster close with auditability built in. For accountants and AP teams, it means automated coding, instant reconciliation, and no more chasing receipts. Lastly, for the CEO, it means modernizing finance without disrupting what already works. So control and continuity finally together. At its core, Link Control enables users to add the power of Payhawk spend management and finance orchestration platform on top of existing cards. That's the core value prop here. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you, everyone. So I know there are a number of questions here, some in the chat and some in the private question module here. So let's, Alex, let's have at it here with some questions.
Yeah.
So give me just a moment to pull up. So I'll start with, so Matt, your question of how do we know if the bank participates? So I mentioned in the chat, right, there's some nuance here in terms of the card enrollment type. So single card enrollment, which is what the vast majority of our customers are using, is broadly supported. I think it's safe to assume that your bank will support single card enrollment. And so that's actually the flow that Alex showed us today, where you type in your PAN, your card number, and it links your card directly. So by and large, that is supported. I think there's maybe one or two banks globally that are not enabled for that at the network level. Won't name them, but we hope to get them on board. When it goes outside of that, and we talk about bulk enrollment, adoption is lower. We do have partnerships with all the networks to work with issuers. If you've got a bank that's not enabled for a given service, we've got network reps standing by to partner with them to get those things turned on. So if it's not enabled and it's something you need, we can likely get it enabled. I mean, it is dependent on the issuer having appetite for that, but certainly, at least on the enrollment side, appetite tends to be quite high. The controls and the virtual cards, similarly, those do require bank participation. The appetite can be a little more spotty there on the issuing bank side, but I think if there's uncertainty about whether a given bank supports something, I'd say reach out to Payhawk. We can find out and answer for you pretty easily. Let's see. So Judith, can you show how international rate conversions are handled? I'm interpreting this to be about bank transfers. Maybe Judith, tell me if I've got it wrong here.
I think we have a couple different answers for how you want that set up, Judith.
So yeah, I think on the bank transfer side, we do have a global partnership with JP Morgan where we support outgoing bank transfers to 115 currencies, 150 countries. We've got really, really competitive FX rates there. I'd say best in market as far as I'm aware, like better than Revolut, Wise, and kind of the top competitors there. So I'd say very good rate, starting with 0.3% FX on most major currencies. For card transactions, on our issued cards, at least, we rely on the networks to do the currency conversion. Importantly, though, with card link and control, we are not doing the card transacting, meaning we don't issue these cards, we don't process the transactions, right? So that's done by the issuing bank and the corresponding issuer processor. So they are responsible for the FX in those cases. Most likely, they're still relying on the network to do that, but in some rare cases, they would have FX in-house. I know it's maybe a not direct answer in terms of what the question was initially asking, but yeah, that's the longer context.
Judith, what I would add to that, to your follow-up question of does it convert receipts to US dollars? We're going to show you in Payhawk on that expenses grid exactly what we're doing with the conversion. So either on the card transaction side of the house, we're going to show you what what it got converted to. If it's a USD denominated card being used in Europe in euros, we'll show you what it got translated to, and you can push that amount. Or alternatively, you can push it in the native currency and let your accounting system pick up the FX translation. It's kind of up to you there. And of course, you might want to have different transaction flows for card transactions versus bills. But those are the two main options that we see people use.
Yep. So Matt's question, are the virtual cards with controls issued by the bank or issued by Payhawk? They are issued by the bank. So even though we are generating the cards, they are on the bins of the issuing bank using the network tools that we're integrated with. So these are technically still issued by the same entity. So we are, again, like we're not involved in these types of transactions in the processing or the issuing directly. So even though for the controls and the issue and the virtual cards, we are using network tools to enable these things. It's still, at the end of the day, it's on top of the existing infrastructure of the issuer. Cool. All right. So a few questions in the private questions area as well. So just touch on these, and Alex probably will defer to you for some of them as well. So first of all, how exactly does Payhawk link to existing bank issued cards? I think we've mostly covered that, but the more direct answer is through integration with various network tools, and there are a load of acronyms I could throw at you here. Like on the Visa side, it's VBDS, more recently renamed to VCDS, that we use for transaction data, VPA for virtual cards, VPC for controls. On the MasterCard side, it's either the Commercial Express Program, CEP, or In Control, formerly called ICPP, now called BPC, that we use for controls and virtual cards. So quite a few acronyms there. And on the tokenization side for MasterCard, ICMP. So just a lot of different stuff going on here, but the sort of like bottom line is we, through integration with a bunch of different network services is how we are enabling this stuff. Next question, does linking my cards affect my credit line or card terms in any way? No, definitely not. Does not have any impact on that whatsoever. Next one, if our company has multiple card programs or entities, can Payhawk support this? Absolutely. Actually, Payhawk is, I'd say, it's sort of built from the ground up with what we call multi-entity support. And we are a highly international company. In fact, we've got subsidiaries and offices in 10 different countries around the world. And so our customers tend to be similar in that they, a lot of our customers are multi-entity, or they've got businesses across different countries. And so that the platform supports that very well. And Alex actually showed a dashboard at the beginning there where it did show for what in the example was a parent entity. It had many different sub-entities, and you could actually see the spend and the budgets and things by entity. So yeah, that's very well supported. And then the last one here, Alex, I'll have you take this one. How long does it take to get up and running?
Yeah, I would say the general thought process there is weeks, not months. The card linking aspects of things is usually pretty quick. I mean, you guys saw me today link one card in a matter of seconds. The connection to your accounting system, again, is a couple of seconds of just ingesting the data. And of course, there's some adding users and mapping your GL categories and things like that. But you get a dedicated Payhawk implementation manager. So I would say a week is the fastest we've done it, and maybe for more complex setups, a couple weeks.
Nice. I think that's it. Any final questions in the chat or anything we missed, please let us know.
I think there was one around whether or not we have delegation options for executive assistants to manage receipts but I think I saw that one further up. The answer is yes. I didn't want to get into too much detail today around employee permissioning versus admin, but we have custom roles and permissions, and one of them is literally called executive assistant. And that's exactly the intent, is you can give someone that user access and actually say, this is the person's, manager, what have you, in Payhawk. And that will let the executive assistant submit receipts and, you know, be able to see the card charges so that they can submit them for there. So I think that one was further up, but absolutely.
Nice, Alex. Yeah, I know that's a new feature. I had actually responded that we don't support it, which
Oh,
was
okay.
true only 2 months ago. But thank
Was
you.
losing the
Thank you.
chat. Yeah, it's we did that in like a couple weeks ago, so I've been working on
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah, cool. Glad you updated that answer. Cool. All right. Well, that concludes our session. So we'll end a bit early, give everyone some time back. Thank you all very much for joining and appreciate all the engagement. Thanks. We'll see you later.